Manganese versus calcium. Do you think you could tell the difference? You're here with Mark Boutwell at PerfectGardens.com.
This is amazing. Only week one of flower.
Okay, so let's real quick get into the benefits of manganese, because I think understanding the benefits of manganese and understanding the benefits of calcium help determine plant deficiencies that at times could look very similar. Okay, so benefits of manganese. Once again, this chart was designed for another presentation I had with Mr. Grow It that will get released in a couple weeks. So make sure to check out that video for this complete chart. For right now, though, there are two main things I want to pull out. Manganese aids in more than 300 enzymes that regulate the human body and plants. So manganese is the trace mineral that helps create 300 other coenzymes. So that's pretty significant. Second part, without manganese, chlorophyll cannot capture sunlight for photosynthesis. That being said, manganese is really a mineral that's going to be needed from the very beginning all the way into flowering. Let's go ahead and go to the next slide. As you see right here, manganese appears pretty distinctly, and I'm going to show you this. And at times it can look very similar to calcium, although I want to point out a couple things like the dots right here. Do you see how the dots are kind of like all over the place? And they're more in a circular versus splotchy all over the leaf, meaning like kind of taking up the entire section right here. They're kind of more of like a little spot. As you come over here to calcium, benefits of calcium is for formation of cell walls and cell membranes. That's the part that I really want you to stay focused in on. I forgot from the beginning, the other three most important parts to understand whether a plant has a deficiency is to understand whether it's a mobile, immobile, or a semi-mobile nutrient. Calcium is an immobile nutrient, so you will actually see an immobile nutrient in your newer leaves. Why? Is because plants need those immobile nutrients because they're used in the beginning when the plant's being built. So once again, when it's immobile, it means it's being placed and then it's not going to be moved later. Same thing with manganese. Manganese is also an immobile nutrient. I'd even call that actually more of like a semi-mobile nutrient. So let's go ahead and see what calcium looks like. So as you can see right here, the calcium, same thing. It's kind of forming similar right here, splotching. I'm going to do side-by-side comparisons, and you can kind of see how the leaf is being eaten up. The whole section is being eaten up right here. Okay, so let's go ahead and go to the next one. So I'm now showing you pictures from my client that he sent over to me. He was like, hey, you know, what does this look like? And I know why it's caused. Now I'll show you that at the very end. Although right now, just kind of looking at the leaves, do you see all the dots that are happening? Same thing, all the dots. Same thing right here. Read these. Young and newer growth develops corrosis, dark orange to dark rusty brown molting on the leaves. So do you see these right here, the dark molting right here? It's different than these little splotches. And in my viewpoint, when I look at these leaves, this kind of looks a little bit like a toxicity or excess than a deficiency. And just to kind of come out and say it, my grower, he's using Fox Farm. We connected a little bit later into flowering. And I've actually see a lot of manganese deficiencies, and I pointed it out on my other grows, and I pointed it out on the other videos how they use manganese EDTA, which is, they call it a chelating agent. You can see right here, more of the rusty look right here. And again, that's different than the calcium. Do you see how once again, I know I showed you a picture that was more a little bit advanced in the calcium deficiency, but right now the plant is into flowering right here. So what is calcium used for, right? It's for cell structure. So I would most likely have seen a calcium deficiency in weeks 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or in veg, but because the plants are so far into flowering, the plant isn't using as much calcium. So there's a very good chance that it had already used the calcium it needed to do the cell structure. The manganese is used for 300 other enzyme productions, right? So it's going to be used all the way through flowering. So what's most likely am I going to run into a deficiency? A mineral that the plant kind of stopped using around week 4 and 5 into flowering, or a mineral that has 3 other coenzyme reactions and it's used all the way from veg to flower, and without it, photosynthesis couldn't exist. So when things kind of look similar, even this one, I had to make a hard call. I called this one a manganese, right? Kind of see the spotting, the necrotic dead spots. And then I show a calcium one right here. So these are, I'm calling these manganese and I'm calling this calcium, right? So you can see the difference. You can even see in the browning, in my opinion, there is just a slight color difference. Same over here, the way the calcium deficiency forms in leaves versus over here, there is just a dramatic difference in my viewpoint and opinion. Either way, the solution is the same. You know me, I always push the product Drops of Balance that has 34 plus ionic sulfate of minerals. It doesn't matter what nutrient line you're using. Second, I don't recommend Fox Farm. I always see this deficiency come up at the end of flowering. I see it with a lot of growers. Salts build up. The plant can no longer use the incomplete chemical reactions that Fox Farm's using in their nutrient line, and you start to see toxicities and deficiencies build up in the plant later into flowering. Yeah, do you get a harvest? Of course. Although, if you haven't checked out the video, Benefits of Nitrogen, I talk about how those leaves can be used as a cocooning process later in the curing process. When your leaves dry up like this, your flower gets exposed earlier on and it doesn't have as long of a shelf life. If you guys disagree with me and think I'm completely wrong, maybe it's not a manganese or a calcium deficiency, or you think it's a calcium, I'd love to hear it in the comments box. I don't know everything, and I always appreciate your comments. I hope this video was helpful. Please give me a thumbs up, like, share, and subscribe. Have a great grow, everyone. So Smite is comprised of rosemary oil, cottonseed oil, peppermint oil, and geranium oil. Rosemary, peppermint, and geranium are all repellents.